Hello, my brothers and sisters in gaming. Welcome back to the channel. As always, I am Jonathan. I'm your host here at QuickBird Gaming. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of QuickBird News. I really do appreciate it. So for this episode, we're going to be covering all the news, all the gaming news from Sunday 8 June to Saturday 14 June. And since we've got a few things to talk about, I better get started. Okay, first up, I think I have to talk about the release of Stellar Blade onto the PC. For anyone who's not aware, Stellar Blade is an action RPG type of game with Souls-like combat that was released on as a PlayStation exclusive last year and did pretty well, and now has come to PC. It's been ported over by Sony, and as this article from TechSpot, which was published on Friday, June 13th, shows, Stellar Blade becomes Sony's most successful PC port in under 24 hours. It released on Steam on 11 June on Wednesday, and it was immediately hitting close to 200,000 players. And in the article it says, in brief, many of the PC ports that Sony published for formerly PS5 exclusive games struggled to gain traction. Some suffered performance issues. Shift Up Corporation's Stellar Blade seems to have avoided both pitfalls, becoming an immediate hit, which seems to be what has happened. This article goes on to detail that other than Helldivers 2, which released simultaneously on PC and on PlayStation, it hit about 450,000 users. Excuse me. The next highest game that was ported over was Ghost of Tsushima, which hit a peak of 77,000, and God of War, which hit a peak of 73,000. So Stellar Blade has easily eclipsed both of those titles and has been very well received. This article is actually a good one because it actually talks about benchmarking, and it seems like Stellar Blade's system requirements are fairly modest, and it shows some of the optimization numbers here. You can check that article out for itself, but I thought this was interesting. With upscaling enabled on low graphics setting, a 9-year-old GTX 1060 can achieve 60 frames a second in 1080. For a game that was released in 2024, that's pretty remarkable. So it seems like the game is not only a hit because of its content, it is also performing well on old systems. So it's doing, and then I hop over to Steam database. This is as of Sunday morning on the 15th, still hitting 150,000 players, and you can see it's holding strong through the weekend. So a lot of interest in this game. I think it is sitting at a 94% positive rating on Steam right now. So people are really enjoying this. Now, granted, as soon as you say people are enjoying something like this, you're going to have people who come along and, with their own snark, try to rain on the parade. This article from PC Gamer, which was published on Saturday the 14th. Gooner Game of the Year, Stellar Blade's mods are 41% smut, ensuring gamers will never see the light of heaven. The main character in this game, Eve, is a very attractive woman, so of course naturally people have modded the hell out of it. If you go over to Nexus Mods alone, you can see mods for all kinds of sexy costumes or no costume at all, and a lot of people are calling it out and calling the game gooner bait. I don't care what people do on their own home. If you want to goon on this and you want to mod it, feel free. It's fine. It's a single-player game. Nobody cares. The Shift Up team certainly doesn't care. They have embraced the modding community thus far and said that they are even looking forward to seeing what some of the mods were going to do. So nobody is really interested in PC gamers moralizing here. And secondly, I don't think this game would be doing as well as it's doing if it were only about a sexy female character. Just plain and simple, the gameplay, even people who criticize the story generally and say it's hollow and formulaic, the gameplay does seem to be quite good and drawing people in. I've watched some streams of people playing it, and they seem to be digging it and enjoying it. Kind of seems reminiscent to me of Nier Automata with a little bit more of a Souls-like bent. If you're interested in something like that, this is on my wish list. I'm going to get around to it eventually. But anyway, Stellar Blade has come out, has done well. Ignore the haters. It seems like something you want to play, just go play it. If it seems like something you want to goon on, then goon on, my friend. Have a great day with it. And since we're talking about Stellar Blade and Sony as a whole, I feel like I have to point out these next two articles. Sony as a company does not seem to be able to get a win without also taking a loss at the same time. It's almost like they think we're doing too good. We got to ratchet back on something because we've got to have some downsides to our upsides. I know that's not true. It just feels that way. This article from Dual Shockers, which was from Saturday, June 14th, Sony lifts regional locks after Stellar Blade PC success. And basically the upshot of this article is, as you scroll down through it, is that with all of the success that Stellar Blade had, they've also started lifting the region locks on several other games they had, including God of War, Helldivers 2, and I'll find I think it was Spider-Man, Sony's Spider-Man game as well, because they're recognizing that these single-player games, without having a PSN account, are really performing well for them. And a lot of countries in the third world, especially in Asia, Africa, and South America, don't have access to PlayStation Network accounts, so they historically Sony has region locked these games out, and now they're starting to lift them. It says, here in the article, predominantly the regions that have suffered most have been in Africa, South America, parts of Asia, but the hit success of a Korean-made game like Stellar Blade has started to turn the tide after receiving a lot of backlash, especially in single-player titles which shouldn't require any online connection. It seems Sony is willing to lift restriction to these areas and provide equal access to some of its most popular titles. There are some exceptions. Syria and Russia are still included. But it said, according to the stats recorded by Steam database, countries such as Azerbaijan and Bangladesh were recently removed from the list of blocked countries. Okay, so this is the W part of the equation. This is the win that they're getting on top of Stellar Blade doing well. Sony is recognizing that they can get this product out to more countries and get more players involved in it, and I think that's good for the gaming community as a whole. Now, having said that, I'm going to pop over to this article from Eurogamer from Friday the 13th of June. Sony remains committed to diverse and resilient live service games, including forthcoming marathon and fair games despite high-profile failures. And this is the part where I want to pinch the bridge of my nose, close my eyes, and sigh. Sony has some past success with live service games, having Bungie under their umbrella, which means they have Destiny, Destiny 2, and they've had recently Helldivers, which has had kind of an up and down, roller coaster ride with players. So they've had some success. However, their failures are mounting. It feels like this is the Al Bundy of the gaming world, where they scored 4 touchdowns in a single game in high school and are still trying to recapture that glory with everything they do. By the way, no knock against Al Bundy. Okay, we come down the article here. During an annual Sony business presentation, CEO Herman Hulst said the company remains committed to developing these live service games, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and let's see. We go down. They talk about Helldivers a little bit here and about how it's good. Then we get to Marathon. Strong early engagement noted in the presentation doesn't reflect the available figures for the game's closed alpha. During this short-lived test, Marathon shed roughly 80% of its initial player database. People have cited a lot of problems with the game, including the format. They said the gameplay is uninspired. This is also on top of the aesthetic issues, which are reported on several weeks back, that there appeared to be there appeared to be some lifting of art assets created by a third party and used without attribution or compensation by Bungie. This appears to be the case, and I think they've admitted as such, though I don't remember if they did, so don't quote me on that. But they've had some controversy surrounding this, and so the feeling out there is that Marathon, at least among the player base, among the people I read and among the people I talk to, is people don't think this is going to do very good. And a lot of people, to use the Gen Z terminology, of which I am not, a lot of people think Marathon is already cooked. And I think that's it's going to be a problem for them and a problem for Bungie. And it points out here, it says, yes, talking about the use of external art in games development, the situation would send morale at Bungie into free fall, which I also reported on. Then we skip over to this title, Fair Games, which is supposedly going to involve people Robin Hooding and stealing from the rich in order to give to the poor. Competitive teams, the competitive teams in the game will be competing to get to the rich targets before the other ones. This is a studio where the studio founder abruptly left the studio after the early reception to the gameplay. And as we'll talk about in a minute with the game Mindseye, when you have high-level people who leave abruptly, it's never a good sign. So this came for Fair Games following worrying external tests, according to a report from Bloomberg. So Sony's got a lot of hope pinned on these next two games, and they already have immense problems. The article, these are the last two paragraphs to me are the salient points here. It is clear that despite surrounding Sony's upcoming releases, the company wishes to remain entrenched or appear confident to do so. It's worth noting the full record of Sony's venture into live service, which includes a legendary blunder Concord, which is an understatement, a canceled live service God of War project, Last of Us Online, and more. There was a Horizon Zero Dawn live service that was canceled. They've had several. Sony, which initially wanted to release 12 live service games by March 2026, has cut that number down to 6. They're not succeeding in this space in general. They're having a lot more misses than hits, and even Helldivers has not turned into a Fortnite cash cow for them. So the amount of resources and energy they've sunk into chasing this dream is not paying off. Sony's single-player output, however, has proven a far better offering for the fans. Earlier in this presentation, Hulse highlighted releases such as Astro Bot, God of War Ragnarok, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and now obviously Stellar Blade. They are actually killing it with single-player releases over the last few years, Sony is. They've had a lot of great games. But they continue to chase this live service unicorn, this mythical dragon that is just, there's only so much bandwidth in that space. There's only so many players and so much cash that can be extracted, and I think it's pretty well saturated right now. Nothing they're doing is resonating. If they were to ask me, I would tell them to kind of let this go, but A, nobody's asking me, and B, everybody's got to have their white whale. I think I used 3 animal metaphors just now for them chasing this. But anyway, they have a W with Stellar Blade. They have a W with unlocking their games for other regions. And then they turn around and take the L for continuing to chase this dream that is probably never going to happen. In the previous segment, I mentioned Mindseye, and this is a game I talked about a week or two back. At the time, the developer was posting and insinuating that the negative reception the game was receiving was part of an organized campaign. They didn't name names, but kind of hinted that Rockstar might be behind their negative feedback they were getting. At the time, I said maybe your game just is not meeting standards and the players aren't liking it. And that appears to be the case, much like I thought it would be. This article from Video Games Chronicle this is from Thursday, the 12th of June. Mindseye Studio heartbroken over buggy launch as PlayStation issues refunds. And from this screen, you can kind of see what the Mindseye experience has been. This was captured by a user, and this kind of summarizes how things have gone. Mindseye Studio Build a Rocket Boy says it's heartbroken, okay, and PlayStation appears to be issuing refunds to some who are dissatisfied. Let's see. Build a Rocket Boy and its publisher IO Interactive did not supply pre-release review code to the press for Mindseye. So, hint number 1, they didn't give out review copies. That's a red flag, okay? Most of the criticism of players has been leveled at the game's performance stability and AI behavior, and on Wednesday there was evidence that multiple players had been refunded by PlayStation, a rare occurrence. Now, this is where they say on Thursday, Build a Rocket Boy published a new statement claiming that it had discovered the source of most players' issues. We are heartbroken that not every player was able to experience the game as we intended. Our priority is optimizing performance and stability. Our teams have worked tirelessly to resolve many issues, and we have identified a majority of crashes that were caused by a memory leak, developed a hotfix. Okay. You tell me you're heartbroken? I don't buy that. You knew what this game was when you released it. Now, I understand some of the pressures involved in this, that your publisher might be leaning on you as a developer to push something out before it's ready, and you can tell them all day long it's not ready, but because of financial reasons, they want you to hit the send button and press to release and get it out there. I get that. But don't tell people that you expected this to go better. We knew this was not going to go well. And I mean, you look at this image below, or the image below the headline. If you see that, do not release this game. And the players have justifiably not responded well. Kind of as I predicted they wouldn't. You can tell me all your negative press is coming because people are attacking you. But, the Occam's razor, what the simplest solution is, or simplest answer is usually the correct one, is the game isn't that good. And that seems to be the case. If you look at it over on Steam, it's sitting at mostly negative at 38%, 1,600 user reviews. And if you scroll down and look at the reviews, it's just a litany of that it's buggy, it's broken, you can't do, it doesn't deliver as promised. And certainly, as of Sunday morning on the 15th of June, nobody's playing it. People have already given up on it. Is it possible they can do a No Man's Sky or Cyberpunk 27 level of 2077? Cyberpunk 2077. Let me get the game's title right. Is it possible that they could do a comeback that would be equal to what those games did? Sure. Is it likely? Probably not. And I'd say if I were a betting man, this might be the end of this studio before it's over, because if you've sunk this much time and money into something and this image is what you get, I feel like I'm repeating myself. But again, just like Bungie and Marathon, you're probably already cooked. And I am turning into a Gen Zer with my language. That seems to be the case. Anyway, so Mindseye is not doing well, and I would say the future for the studio and the game is pretty bleak. If you're down to 300 players less than a week after release for a game that costs $60, and it's probably not I wouldn't consider a AAA title, but surely a AA, you're boned. There's no other way to put it. And if I'm quite honest with you, if you want to know why as a player base we keep getting broken, buggy games that don't work, it's because we as a player base keep rewarding these studios for giving them to us. And case in point is this article from Games Radar, which was published on Friday the 13th of June. Monster Hunter Wilds recent reviews on Steam dropped to mostly negative as performance issues persist months after launch, with some players saying new updates made it worse. And again, you can go over to Steam and look, and the game has 60% overall positive reviews and 23% recent. In over 7,000 reviews, 23% of them are positive. So 3 out of 4 are saying that things are not going good. Now, the game continues to have pretty good numbers. We're months after launch, and it is still racking in 5 figures, so that's not bad. But it has consistently been a problem for the PC. The port was poorly optimized. It has never been good. I know on PlayStation it's running well, and that's good. I'm glad PlayStation. And I should have gone to pull up the numbers, see if I could find numbers for the PlayStation player base. I'm sure it's doing quite well, and this game has sold 10 million copies. So Capcom has not been incentivized to fix the problem. Yeah, it says recent Monster Hunter Wilds user reviews have taken a nosedive as players can't ignore the PC port's persistently wonky performance. Now, that's putting it mildly. Scrolling down the page of red reviews reveal that people are struggling to run the game at a stable, consistent frame rate months after launch, saying the recent update made things worse. Here are some blurbs from reviews. Wanted to try and do the new Akuma event, but whatever they've done to improve the game has basically bricked it for me. One review reads, I can't get it above 15 FPS when I had no issues maintaining 60 at launch. It's like playing a slideshow and I can't deal with it. And another elegantly writes that it has poo-poo performance. Over on Reddit, players mostly echo the same sentiment. It's badly optimized, and Capcom has done nothing to address it. But like I just said, why should they? We rewarded them. We sold them 10 million copies, many of which were on a PC. It's got 136,000 reviews on Steam, so it's sold plenty, and they are just not fixing it. So we are going to continue to get what we pay for in the future. You don't want bad performing games, don't buy them, no matter how much fun they are or how good they look. It's as simple as that. There's no other way around this. Okay, so I'm going to use this article from Game Rant, which was published on Friday the 13th of February, to kind of point out a trend that I see emerging in gaming. And you can see from the headline, First Berserker Khazan getting difficulty options that make the game even easier and harder. This trend I'm referring to is that in Souls-like games, I'm starting to see the creep of difficulty settings coming into these games. I did a long Quick Bird Unscripted where I just babbled about Souls-like games being difficult and why that was okay. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. Don't expect anything structured. It's just really me babbling for about 20 minutes about Souls-like games. But I just did want to just highlight this. Whether you think this is a good thing or not, it does appear to be happening. I would hazard a guess that it's because they're trying to make the game more accessible and get it in the hands of more players, which is understandable. So we saw this. There was also recently when Lies of P released its DLC Overture. It also includes difficulty settings for the game. And after some people have complained about the DLC, New Game Plus, multiple iterations of New Game being too difficult, they have said they're going to turn it down. And I think I saved the article that said so. Yeah, from over at Insider Gaming. And this was from actually from Tuesday, June 10th. They're going to be reducing the difficulty on the New Game Plus. So we're starting to see kind of a trend, two data points now of Souls-like games dialing back the intensity. And whether or not you think this is a good thing or not, it is happening. So just throwing that out there. Okay, morning is coming. It's getting lighter in the room behind me, as you probably noticed. The sun's coming up, so that means I need to finish this up. I'm going to end with two more upbeat, positive stories. First of which is this article from Insider Gaming from Friday, June 13th. Devil May Cry 5 hits new sales milestone thanks to Netflix. And in short, the Devil May Cry series had a Netflix adaptation. The first season was pretty well received. It's been greenlit for a second season. And the makers over at Capcom, they are crediting the renewed attention by the series for accelerating sales or picking up renewing interest in sales, and has resulted in the fact that Devil May Cry 5 has now passed 10 million sales units, and their overall the series has sold 33 million copies. They said they let's see down here. The series was an instant success with longtime casual fans, getting involved with such a big success that it helped Devil May Cry 5 sell more copies, something similar to what we observed with Cyberpunk 27 and the Edgerunners anime. So, if you're a fan of the Devil May Cry series, and by the sales numbers, there's quite a few of them, this is good news. This may keep the series alive and result in future games. So, a positive for that. And finally, there's this bit from VG247, also from Friday, 13 June. Silent Hill revival is far from over, with the original 1999 cult classic finally being remade. Now, after Silent Hill 2 was remade by the Bloober team, and I think it was released last October, it was came out, had really, really positive reception, especially for a remake. Remakes are always iffy. You never know quite what you're going to get, if it's going to be good or bad, if it's going to lose the original flavor. But people seem to really like the remake for Silent Hill 2. I think it got a 91 on Metacritic. Let me see if I kept that window open. 91 on Metacritic, 9.1% on Metacritic. 86% critic score, and on Steam, it is sitting at a 92% positive with 95% recent reviews. So overall, this remake was really well received, and now the same team is going to be working on a remake of the original game. So I think that's great because they've proven themselves that they can do justice to the original game. I first played the original Silent Hill actually last year. It was part of my How Does It Play Today series, where I look back on games celebrating their 25th anniversary. I'd never played it, and I quite enjoyed it. So between this coming out and the fact that Silent Hill F is going to release, I don't remember if it was later this year or early next year. It is, but it is scheduled now. We've seen some trailers, and so a new Silent Hill game is coming out, along with the announcement of Resident Evil 9, which is going to be out next February. It is a great time for people who love this kind of survival horror, love this genre, there's a lot of goodness coming our way. So, let's take the wins where we can get them. This is also a positive. All right, everyone, I'm going to leave it there for the week. It's actually went on longer than I thought it would. And since the sun is coming up and I got up early to do this, it's time for me to go lay back down and take a short nap. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. I would love to have more subscribers. I'd love to have a community here of people that can talk. You don't always have to agree with my takes. Come into the comment section and tell me if you disagree with something I said, or if I didn't cover a story you thought was important. I appreciate that kind of feedback. Like I said, I just love the discourse surrounding video games. So, feel free to do so. Drop a like on the video, and I appreciate that kind of engagement. All those things help me out a lot. So, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you for doing so. You all go out there, take care of yourselves, live your best lives. Y'all stay gaming.